I work at beauty pageants as a makeup artist and have encountered all kinds of people. The girls who participated in these events are so fascinating. Some of them were exactly what you expect, but others were so much more complex, which is exactly how I describe 𝘠𝘠. The moment she stepped through the door, she captivated the attention of everyone in the room. I'd never seen anyone as beautiful as her in my life, but I couldn't help but notice the whispers and rumors from the other contestants. Anyone who interacted with her could tell you how 𝘠𝘠 was rather strange. Her limbs moved unnaturally, almost like she was a puppet being held up by strings. Plus, she always had a judgmental stare whenever anyone passed her. Or maybe it was more like she was observing them. One day, a group of girls thought it'd be funny to pour a bucket of water onto 𝘠𝘠. It wasn't the first time I'd seen bullying at these pageants, mostly out of jealousy. They laughed at her as she ran to the restroom, covering her face. My heart clenched as I looked around and realized no one was going after her, so I went to the restroom myself. Even though she was a bit strange, it was such a waste to ruin a piece of art like that. As I opened the door, the lights flickered ominously, and I quickly found 𝘠𝘠 standing in front of one of the mirrors, but I couldn't hear any sounds of her crying. I began to approach her and caught a glance of her face in the mirror. Her skin was discolored, covered in small blemishes, and looked like it was almost rotting. Huge black shadows were formed around her eyes, and they looked like they were hollow. Her once perfect peach lips were now a dark purple, but what was most horrifying was the expression on her face. She was completely emotionless. Although 𝘠𝘠 looked nothing like herself, there was still something so chillingly beautiful about her. She turned around and saw me, then quickly covered up her face again. There was a tense feeling in the air, so I quickly got some makeup out of my bag. I looked at 𝘠𝘠's reflection in the mirror and said, "You're still the most beautiful person I've ever seen." After a pause of silence, she finally turned around and let me redo her makeup. Once I was done, 𝘠𝘠 looked back to her usual self. If anything, she looked even better than before. When she saw her reflection in the mirror, I finally saw her expression change into a smile. But it wasn't a happy one. Something about it felt sinister. 𝘠𝘠 got up to leave the restroom, but right before she left, she turned back to me, and her empty eyes looked me up and down with a new shine in them. Then, the door shut. Afterwards, 𝘠𝘠 began to approach me every single day to chat and learn new makeup tips. It was a strange bond we had, and I started to consider it a genuine friendship. Then, finally came the day of the pageant. It was always the most stressful. Everyone was usually rushing to get ready, but today, the dressing room was emptier than ever. The only person present was 𝘠𝘠. She sat perfectly still in her chair, adorning her bare face, waiting for me to do her makeup. I thought it was strange, since she usually always had makeup on, even before getting here, but I was still more than happy to assist. 𝘠𝘠 looked at me through the mirror and said, "Am I still the most beautiful person to you?" I looked at her and nodded. Her lips spread into a sinister smile, but I simply ignored it. The audience that night was definitely one of the bigger ones I've ever seen. Thankfully, I managed to get a seat in the middle and had a perfect view of the stage. Finally, the lights dimmed, and the sound of heels clicking on the stage echoed across the auditorium, and a singular person stepped on stage. The spotlight revealed it to be 𝘠𝘠. This time, she wore her bare face. Lots of gasps were heard in the audience, but it didn't seem to bother her at all. 𝘠𝘠 took the mic and announced that this was dedicated to her favorite makeup artist. I could tell she was staring straight at me. Then, she pulled the curtains back. On stage, all the girls were dressed in their beautiful gowns. Yet, they were perfectly still. The girls resembled puppets on strings, exactly the way Lila stood. It didn't take long for everyone to realize they were all dead. As everyone ran around screaming and trying to figure out what was going on, I sat still in my seat, admiring the beauty of it all. I've never seen art as heavenly as this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye for now, but not forever.